Ayo, what's good reader fam? Today I'm bringing you one of my books I've read recently videos. The series on my channel where I share with you the books I've read recently. I feel like I should really stop explaining this video concept, and yet here I am explaining it again. Let's get started. First up here I have Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. This is a very difficult book to describe, so don't expect much with this description. This book follows two different perspectives. The first perspective that we have is of Kafka. He is a 15-year-old boy who one day runs away from home to live in a library. Then on the other hand, we follow this guy named Nakata, and he went through something really strange in his childhood, and he's never fully recovered from that situation, so it's kind of scarred his path in life. I can't say much more, and I don't even know how to fully explain what exactly happens, but these two stories end up affecting each other. So it's about, wait, what? Exactly, you get it, I don't need to explain any further, bye! I know that's a very vague description, but I honestly don't know how to fully describe this book. It's a wild ride, I will say that. What I liked. This book had a major engrossing element to it that I really enjoyed, and I think a big reason why it is so engrossing is because while you're reading it, you have so many questions as to why certain things are happening. We have this character who lashes out in violence and he doesn't remember doing it. We have a character who can communicate with cats, and I'm not talking he talks to the cats and they just go meow meow back. He has a full-on conversation with the cats. This is not a one-sided situation here. So as you're reading it, you have all these questions that are popping up and you want to find out the answers, so that's kind of what keeps you reading. That's what keeps you engrossed in the story. It's that line of curiosity pulling you through. I also really like this element of the potential of where this book could go. This book is weird. Like, it is strange. It gets weird. This book honestly feels like you're experiencing this very trippy dream, like anything could happen. It has this nice unexpected quality to it, and that's something that I liked about it because of the fact that you never know what's gonna happen next, unless you're a genius and you could figure out what was gonna happen next. But if that's the case, I cannot relate. I had no idea what was gonna happen next in the story, and I also could not see where the book was going. I was driving through this book without a map. Another really great positive about this book is that all the characters are really well built. Every character that you meet in this book feels like they could be a real person, and you could also feel this clear purpose as to why the characters were involved in the story. They weren't just in the background chilling for no reason. I also really loved Murakami's writing style. I do know that this is a translated book, so the translation could have really affected the style of writing, but it has this really nice melancholy feel to it, and I was just completely soaking it in as I was reading it because I enjoyed it that much. The last thing that I really liked about this book was the overall story flow. This book could have easily been super choppy because of the different storylines, but it was nice and smooth like butter. It never had that jerky break, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go feel to it, and I really appreciated that. What I didn't like. Something that really bothered me about this book, and I know it's supposed to be like the beauty of the book, but it's the fact that you're left with all these questions. Murakami doesn't give you all these answers. He kind of like leaves it open for you to interpret, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I need answers. I don't like being left with questions. I didn't read all these pages to have you not answer my questions and leave it up to me to figure things out. No, 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 no. I get that it's your book, you wrote it, and that it's supposed to be this way, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. I don't like that aspect of this book. One of my critiques for this book is the fact that this book is one that you have to reread to kind of fully get the impact. I don't want to have to reread a book in order to get the full impact, to get the full image. Like, I want to read the book one time and fully understand everything. Is that too much to ask for? Apparently so. Those are all my critiques though. I did really end up enjoying this book. I gave Kafka on the Shore 3.5 shores. And by shores, I mean stars. I can't believe I just said that. Next up here I have 1984 by George Orwell. Everyone in this world is controlled by this group called the Party. I know their name makes you think it's gonna be a good old time. They're all about the party life, but no. In fact, they're about controlling everyone to a T. And if you even think about disagreeing with them and their ways, they're gonna cut you off. You'll either be punished severely or you'll just straight up die. Take your pick. Neither, please. And we follow our main character, Winston, who finds himself not wanting to go along with the party. He is not down to party, which as you can imagine causes some complications. What I liked. First up, I really liked the world. Despite it being super depressing, I still really enjoyed it. It made me think so much about our own world because it reminds me of our world in some ways. Unfortunately, that's really not a good thing. There's obviously a big difference of our world and their world, but there's also a lot of similarities. But that's something that's really stuck with me about this book. It's got me really thinking about our world, how we're sometimes being manipulated and fed lies, and all sorts of corrupt things. It's really fun to think about. Not really. I really liked how things were described in this book. It really showed showcases how terrible things are for them, also giving me a sense of unease and uncomfortableness while I'm reading it. Gotta love that feeling when you're reading. I mean, that's a sign to me that the book is doing something right when it comes to the writing. The writing style felt super realistic, making it super easy to kind of submerge yourself into the story. It's kind of sad how real it felt. What I didn't like. One of my biggest gripes with this book is the pacing, which I know that I am spoiled rotten because a lot of the books that I read are super fast paced. A lot of young adult books are super fast paced, super fast moving, what, just like that. So since I primarily read YA books, I've gotten kind of comfortable with that fast paced method. So when I get books like this that are a little on the slower side, I can't help but just be annoyed, which I know is so stupid, but that's my opinion. It just really bothers me. For example, we get to a point in this story where a character is just reading from a book and we're reading the book that the character is reading from, and like that part was so difficult for me to get through. I'm reading a book about a character who's reading a book, and I would be fine with that if it was like 10 pages, but this was like forever long. It felt like, I don't even know how long it was, but it was a long time, and I wanted to be reading about the character in this world doing stuff, but instead I was reading a book about a character reading a book, and I was reading the things that he was reading, and I just wasn't that interested in that part, and that part really slowed down the pacing, and I get why it was there, was to help you understand some things about the world, but it still drove me crazy. Enjoyment was up here, and then it was just going downhill. I was hoping we could put the car in reverse, but it just kept going downhill. My next critique is just another personal preference, but the characters didn't really do much for me. I didn't really like love them or care for them that much. I obviously felt bad for the situation that they were in, but I felt like I could have cared so much more had I developed a love for the characters, but I just never got to that point where I cared that much for them. Those are really my only two critiques. I did end up really enjoying this book. It just didn't wow me. It didn't blow my britches off. Not that I want a book to blow my britches off, but I don't know where I was going with that. It was fine. I gave 1984 a 3 out of 5 stars. Next up here I have The Copper Gauntlet by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Magisterium series. This book follows our main character Callum Hunt on summer break, leading him back into the fall time where he will be attending again the magic school Magisterium. After some shady business with his father, he assumes that school is going to be more of a safe haven for him. Ha! So he thought. Callum and his friends find themselves involved in some chaos, which puts them up against some evil forces. What I liked. Something that's really pushing me to carry on with this series is the kind of overall theme of friendship. We have a really great showcase of friendship within this series. We have a great bond between the three main characters. While they are still super loyal to each other, they still have moments where they question their friendships, question their relationships, which is a very normal thing to do, and you should be questioning your friendships because sometimes your friends can be awful and toxic without you even realizing it because they're manipulating you. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video that I will not be making. Friendship is magic, but friendship can also be tragic. I also just love a lot of the complicated relationships that are shown in this book, and when I say complicated, I mean complicated. This goes in both friend relationships and family relationships. There's a lot of secrets and lies, two things that can cause a lot of complications in friendships. And the last thing that I really enjoyed in this book was the humor. I marked the heck out of this book, and a majority of the things that I marked down were just funny moments in this book. There are a lot. I mean, if you've read anything by Cassandra Clare, then you can expect to go into her books knowing there's going to be lots of great humorous moments. That's just how it goes. What I didn't like. This book fell into the second book syndrome for me. I know that a lot of people didn't like the first book. I really loved the first book, so this book just really underwhelmed me. The plot just didn't have that level of epicness like the first book did. Things were definitely happening and there were some developments that happened in this book, but I just didn't care. It really felt like a filler book to me, even though there were important things that happened in this book, obviously. It really felt like they used this book as a way to plant seeds for things that are going to happen later on in the series. Overall, I ended up giving The Copper Gauntlet a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. 10 years after being whisked away to Fairy, Jude wants nothing more than to be Fae, except she can't because she's human, and the Fae aren't big fans of humans. In order to win a place at the court where she feels she will fit in, she must defy the prince. It's full of fairies, politics, and madness. What I liked. I am trash for The Cruel Prince, even though I know it's not the greatest. It's definitely got its issues, I am aware of that, but I still love it. What did I love about it, you might ask? I loved the world and the politics especially. That's one of the major things that kind of pulled me into this book. I found it super fascinating how everything was working and all the complications that are going down within the politics. Like, holy crap, lots of nasty stuff going on there. There were so many shock factor moments that had me losing it. Did my eyeballs just read that? Say it ain't so. Maybe if I close my eyes and open them again, that scene will disappear. Nope, didn't work. I was not prepared to be reading this book and then have to close it and just stare at the ceiling to just let everything sink in, but that's what happened at one point in this book. I was in a state of shock, I guess. Every little thing is gonna be alright. Even though the fae in this book are awful, I think I prefer this type of fae, which I know sounds kind of twisted because these fae are terrible, like they are literally cruel. That sounded weird, cruel. Even though they are that way, I think that's what makes this book interesting. They're the ones bringing in the conflict and the drama. Otherwise, this story would be boring, and I'm not here to read about some perfect character that has no drama in their lives. Bring on the fae drama, I want to eat it all up. It was also a book that was just easy to get sucked into. Sometimes fantasy can be a little bit difficult to like really get into it, at least for me. I'm like, I need the first 50 pages to do a really good job of building up the world, getting me interested in the characters, and understanding the magic system. If those three things are amiss for me, I don't know that I'll enjoy the book that much. This one right away got me super interested in the world, the politics, and the characters. So on an entertainment level for me, this book was top notch. I really enjoyed it. What I didn't like. A big critique that I have is that there were some uncomfortable things that happen in this book that are just downright not okay. It just made me really uncomfortable, and I felt like the author could have done some other cruel things that could have showed the level of brutal that these fairies were on. I know she was using certain scenes to really push how far these fae go, but there was one scene in particular, which I'm not gonna spoil or anything, obviously, that just made me so uncomfortable, and I was like, we could have done so many other things that could have shown how terrible these fae are. Why did we specifically have to have that scene in? Another little issue with this book that I had is something that I also enjoyed about it, and that was the shocking moments. It's not the shocking moments that I had an issue with, it's just the fact that I feel like the reason those shocking points were so shocking is because they came out of nowhere. There wasn't any like vague hints or foreshadowing of what was coming, and maybe there was and I missed it because I was flying through this book because of how much I was enjoying it, so I should probably go back and reread it. Let me know down below in the comments if you saw some foreshadowing scenes for certain things that happened later on in the book, because I might have missed things that went on. I am by no means a perfect reader, I've never said that. My last critique is that I felt like the plot structure and the overall flow of the story just kind of seemed off for me. There were some things plot-wise that I just wanted fleshed out a little bit more, and I felt like that could have helped with the overall flow of the story. But overall, I really enjoyed The Cruel Prince, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up here, I have Eragon by Christopher Paolini. This was our Booksplosion book of the month for the month of January, and we worked with Penguin Random House, and our live show is already up, so I will leave a link to that down below in the description if you want to see all our spoilery thoughts on this book. This book follows our main character Eragon, who one day comes across a dragon egg in the forest, and at first he's like, wow, look at that rock. Boy, that's not a rock, that's a freaking dragon egg. And he's quite surprised when the rock hatches and it's got a dragon inside of it. The thing is, dragons within this world are forbidden. The leader of the world had some complicated situations with dragon riders in the past, and so now dragons are forbidden, which puts our main character Eragon into a bit of a tricky situation. His life completely switches from ordinary to extraordinary as he's thrust into this new world of dragons, magic, and power. What I liked. One of my favorite elements in this story was just the relationship between Eragon and his dragon Saphira. That bond and just their development of their relationship was just so fun to follow. It was just really enjoyable seeing them connect and work together. Does anybody have a spell I can cast on my dog to turn him into a dragon? Dragon up, Buttercup! I also really enjoyed learning kind of backstories about different characters within this world. 2 that are really big standouts for me. One is Brahm and one is Mortak. I think that's how you pronounce their names. They both just had really interesting past stories, and it was cool to see those be revealed and to see how it changes your views of those characters. I really loved the atmosphere in this book. Throughout this book, you're kind of going on this journey, so you're experiencing all these different places that they're going on their journey and all these different people they encounter. All in all, I feel like this book is really a great introduction to fantasy, and I think that's why a lot of people loved this book growing up, because it introduced them to the world of fantasy and how cool it can be. And I have so much respect for this author because of the fact that he wrote this book when he was 15. What I didn't like. One of my main issues with Eragon was just the world building. There were points in this book where I did enjoy how the world was being built up, because we had this kind of method of a storyteller telling the main character Eragon different things about the world, and I liked that aspect, but that aspect wasn't always utilized. And those were the moments where I felt like things kind of got super info dumpy, and I was just like, okay, I'm drowning here, I need a breath of air. I just would have liked a better balance with how the world was built up. This book was also very trope heavy, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but my personal preference, if a book is going to be trope heavy, I want to see different things being done with different tropes. Try to bring something new to the table, and I felt like that was kind of lacking in this book. But overall, I ended up giving Eragon Eragon 3.5 out of 5 stars. The last book I'm going to be talking about is Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. This is Jenny Lawson's memoir about her lifelong battle with depression and anxiety. What I liked. After finishing this book and thinking about it more, I've realized how important this book is, specifically for people who deal with anxiety and depression, but also for people who don't deal with those things to kind of learn more about them. I think this book is great for people who do deal with anxiety and depression because it's a reminder that they're not alone. There are other people outside there who are on a similar journey to yours, and it's always nice to know that you're not alone, especially when you're dealing with something like that. And Jenny Lawson, the author, is super open about her experiences. She doesn't shy away from telling you how terrible things have been. She kind of just bears it all, which I really respect. That can't be an easy thing to do, to like just share everything that you face. While this book does have a lot of sad stories in it, it doesn't really linger in the sadness. There's also so many funny stories in this book, so you're not going to be reading this and just be like, oh, this is really sad, like the whole time. It'll make you feel everything. I haven't read many memoirs. I've only read like one other, so I don't have much to compare this to, but I really enjoyed it. What I didn't like. I honestly really liked this book, so I don't have many critiques, but my one critique is that this author felt like they kept pushing this fact that they were super different, super weird, super quirky. It got to a point where it frustrated me because it just felt like she was trying too hard to push that personality. It kind of felt like she was trying to get validation for how weird she was instead of just owning it and just being weird. But instead it was like, oh, I know, I'm so strange and quirky and weird. Aha, I'm so awkward. Wow, I'm uncomfortable. Aha. We get it, Sharon. You're a special little butterfly. But like I said, I loved Furiously Happy and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So those were some books I've read recently. You guys should let me know down below in the comments some books that you've read recently, or let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. Do we have the same opinion on some of them, or do we have different opinions? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit the like button. If you want to see more bookish contents from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit the bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope your day is bright and that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-oh!